More companies in the Chinese property sector are now caught up in debt, and the poster child for the sector's woes, Evergrande Group, has missed its third round of bond payments in a matter of weeks. More floods strike northern China. Heavy rain caused one river to overflow, drowning a dozen nearby towns. As for farmers, many are hard at work trying to rescue their harvests and livestock from water damage. Armed with subpar equipment, some have resorted to manual labor. China limits video game access for kids to 3 hours a week, but some may have already found ways to bypass the rule. And in Taiwan, more deaths have been reported in those who got vaccinated than from the pandemic itself. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Before we start with our daily news, we have a short announcement. We have our premiere at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time from Monday to Saturday on YouTube and also on TV. NTD is available on many platforms, including cable TV, satellite, and over-the-air TV across the U.S., and it continues to grow. Please check out ntd.com/TV. Type in your zip code to find all the ways you can watch our show. That's ntd.com/TV. Chinese property firms took heavy fire in bond markets on Tuesday. This after the poster child of the sector's woes, Evergrande Group, missed its third round of bond payments in weeks, and the number of debt-settled companies rose to 4.
China Evergrande missed a fresh round of bond payments on Tuesday. The ailing property developer was due to pay $148 million to overseas creditors. That's its third miss in as many weeks, and expectations of any payment were always slim. Evergrande has liabilities of more than $300 billion, including nearly $20 billion in offshore debt. The firm has been prioritising domestic creditors, but the mounting fears of a messy collapse are now hammering the whole Chinese property sector. Another developer, Modern Land, is asking for more time to repay what it owes, while Cynic Holdings said it would likely default next week on bonds worth $250 million. That company's shares were suspended last month after plunging nearly 90%. Traders have also been unable to buy or sell Evergrande shares after trading in them was suspended last week. Shanghai Stock Exchange data showed the top 5 losers among exchange-traded bonds in Tuesday morning deals were all issued by property firms.
And another missed payment, this time by the Chinese property developer Fantasia Holdings Group. Fantasia says over $200 million was due last week and that it did not pay. Days after Fantasia's default, the group lost 2 board members. The Hong Kong-listed group said the 2 members resigned effective on Monday and added it was searching for new directors to replace them. Fantasia has a market value of over $400 million, but its missed deadline adds to the distress that's spreading through China's real estate sector, which comprises about a quarter of the country's economy. As of now, 4 developers have already run into trouble: Evergrande, Fantasia, Modern Land, and the latest added to the list is Cynic Holdings. It's unclear how the crisis will be resolved. The last option could be a disorderly series of defaults. Bad news for China's entire economy. More reports of flood damage are coming out of northwestern China. Excess water has breached one riverbank in the country's Shenxi province amid continuous heavy rains. The resulting flood drowned 12 small towns there. The downpour first hit Dali County and Shenxi province over the weekend. The water level of the river there rose to a historical high before the overflow. According to Chinese state media, the river water flooded over 80,000 acres of farmland, impacting close to 250,000 residents. Local authorities reported an economic loss of over $70 million, though we cannot verify these figures independently. In recent months, Dali County has seen 5 different instances of multi-day downpours. Total rainfall there has reached about 27 inches. September's rain levels averaged nearly 3 times higher than in the same period from previous years. After this most recent flood, local authorities reportedly provided victims with little to no assistance, driving locals to call for help online. A netizen posted on social media platform Weibo, asking, "Can anyone pay attention to the flood in Dali County, Shenxi province? It's really serious." Another poster wrote, "People here were the first to leave. Most of them were urged by officials to find refuge with their relatives and friends." The person added, "The people of Shenxi province had to help themselves." In addition to the flood reports, heavy rain is also causing other destruction. In another part of Shanxi, a landslide struck a road on Monday, halting cars and trucks in their tracks. Witnesses caught the moment on camera and later shared it online. Outside of Shanxi, other regions are also coping with flood damage. Farmers in China's Henan province are struggling, dealing with devastated crops and drowned livestock. Online videos reveal the situation, where many of those affected have reportedly gotten little in terms of aid. Clips show many farmers using outdated or primitive farming equipment to repair their land, while some have resorted to full-on manual labor. The images have raised the question of just how developed is rural China, and how much does Beijing support the nation's farmers? In some villages, floodwaters measure up to 6.5 feet deep, while a number of locals say Chinese authorities are releasing even more excess floodwater without warning residents. A Chinese Communist Party's official newspaper says minors have been buying or renting online accounts to skirt new rules that limit video game time for children, and that gaming platforms should do more to stop them. Ryan Chan reports.
Chinese state media wants the gaming industry's help enforcing the country's new video game time limits. Specifically, it wants to plug a loophole that they say some have exploited. In a Monday commentary, the People's Daily said some gaming businesses have been selling or renting accounts to let minors play beyond the 3-hour-a-week limit, which came into effect in August. The People's Daily is the official newspaper of the Communist Party of China. Its editorial also said that while some online platforms claim to take strict measures to stop minors from bypassing the rules that way, it also noticed many parents complaining about businesses being lax about double-checking kids' identities when they register, and that gaming enterprises must actively fulfill social responsibilities, be responsible for the healthy growth of the next generation, and promote the healthy development of the industry. The paper also asked parents to do more to create a conducive environment for the healthy growth of minors. This after teens have been found using their parents' names to register for a gaming account. Beijing's curbs are a body blow to the global video game industry. China is the world's most lucrative market with tens of millions of young players. But the central government says limiting gaming time for children was necessary to prevent addiction.
A screenshot went viral this September. It says it's puzzling to see a woman in her 60s playing video games at 3 a.m. People suggested this may be a minor using their grandparents' ID for authorization to defy Beijing's anti-addiction system. The video game company Tencent responded, saying they cannot decide if a player is who they say they are. Tencent says fake authorization doubts have triggered the system's face recognition request 17 times, but that all of them passed. According to major online Chinese media outlet Sina.com, some people are inclined to believe children are registering with their grandma's IDs and then ask her to help them pass the face recognition test too. China has been stepping up aggression against Taiwan. Over the course of the last week, Beijing sent a record number of military aircrafts into Taiwan's air defense zone. It's got Taiwanese citizens wondering if a war is coming. NTD's Don Mam has more.
China's increasing military pressure on Taiwan is taking a toll on the island's citizens. China's Air Force has sent 4 straight days of incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone. Starting October 1st, around 150 aircraft have flown near the island, and some citizens report hearing Chinese planes flying overhead. As the flyovers continue, the possibility of a Chinese-led military confrontation with Taiwan is lingering in some citizens' mind. One of them says he believes war is imminent.
I
think that Taiwan could be attacked at any time because we are a small island nation, so we are like a bargaining chip in negotiations between big countries. I don't know when there will be a war, but I think it's very likely to happen.
But not everyone agrees. Another local says China has much to consider before starting a war. She says the possibility of war is far-fetched.
Although we have been hearing the sound of the military planes recently, I think it doesn't just depend on China if there will be a war. Just because China wants it, maybe it's because of my own character. I think war is a very remote idea for me.
Defense director at Taiwan's National Defense and Security Research Institute says that starting a war across the Taiwan Strait is not in China's best interest. He explains that because China cannot guarantee a win.
I think for Mr. Xi Jinping and the CCP, Communist China, war is very much not in their best interests. One reason being that previous wars in Vietnam and Korea were ground battles, whereas in the East China Sea, the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea, it would be a sea battle, which is very reliant on technology and completely different. Because of this aspect, the People's Liberation Army is currently still unable to guarantee a victory.
The chairman of Taiwan's Institute for National Policy Research adds that even if China were to win a confrontation, the country still needs to consider the political aftermath resulting from war. Don Ma, NTD News.
In Taiwan, the number of people dying after their COVID vaccination is exceeding the number of deaths from the virus itself. Taiwan's health authorities say that as of Monday, deaths after vaccination reached 865, while deaths from the virus are at 845. Vaccines currently offered in Taiwan include AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer-BioNTech, and Taiwan's own vaccine, Medigen. Out of the 865 deaths after vaccination, over 600 were from AstraZeneca and nearly 200 deaths after Moderna shot. Harvard University is opting for Taiwan instead of China, at least for one program. From learning Chinese to visiting historic cities, one Harvard summer program allows American students to explore Chinese culture. These experiences will continue, but in a new place. The Harvard Beijing Academy is transitioning to the Harvard Taipei Academy. Taipei is the capital city of Taiwan. Starting next year, the program will move from Beijing's Language and Culture University to National Taiwan University in Taipei. According to its program director, that's due to a lack of friendliness from its original host institution in Beijing. One being its failure to provide classrooms and dormitories. In recent years, the university in Beijing did not provide a central dorm for students in the program, instead splitting them into multiple different dorms or asking them to find hotel accommodations. The program director blames Beijing's hostile attitude towards U.S. institutions. In the past, the program would typically host a small party to celebrate the 4th of July. But in 2019, the university in Beijing banned the program from holding the holiday party. It didn't respond to a request from the Epoch Times for comment. According to the program's website, the new host in Taiwan provides dorm rooms with private bathrooms. That's on top of visits to cultural and historical landmarks, including the Palace Museum, and extracurricular activities like calligraphy, music, tai chi, and mahjong, a tabletop game. The organization that helps stabilize the world's economy has been at the center of a credibility controversy. Its top leader was accused of meddling with important data to appease Beijing. And now the organization has made its decision on whether to let her go. NTD's Juliet Song has the details.
The head of the organization that protects the world's economy can keep her job for now. That's after she's accused of altering data to please Beijing. The allegation against her has sparked major controversy. It's raising questions about the credibility of some of the world's most important organizations, like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and more importantly, China's influence on them.
Because of the scarring,
the woman's name is Kristalina Georgieva. She's in charge of the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. The organization was set up to protect the world's economy. It has over 100 member countries, and the U.S. is its biggest shareholder, followed by Japan and China. IMF has a sister organization called the World Bank, where Georgieva also served as a top official. And here's where the allegation comes in. The bank's ethics committee hired an American law firm to do an investigation. And it found that Georgieva pressured staff members to improve China's ranking in a flagship report. The World Bank publishes this report every year. Its goal is to evaluate the business environment in different countries, and the report's findings impact global policymakers' decisions. The report's rankings are especially important for countries like China because the nation relies on its ranking to attract foreign investment. In 2017, China was ranked 78 and was about to drop to 85 in the next year's report. The law firm alleges it was at this point that high-level Chinese officials met with the World Bank's management, including Georgieva. The meeting sought to boost China's ranking. At the time, the World Bank needed to raise capital from its stakeholders, and China was its third largest stakeholder. The law firm says Georgieva became directly involved in efforts to improve China's ranking. Georgieva denies any wrongdoing. In a statement, she said she disagrees with the report's findings. The World Bank suspended the flagship report after the investigation. Following the investigation, questions arose over whether Georgieva would keep her job at IMF. The organization gets its funding from its member countries, and the U.S. is its biggest contributor. The U.S. did not give Georgieva any public support, but also didn't ask her to step down. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen called Georgieva on Monday, saying without further evidence, there's no basis for a leadership change, but the U.S. is closely monitoring any follow-ups. IMF's European shareholders backed Georgieva. A European traditionally controls IMF, while the president of the World Bank is American. In 2019, France lobbied for Georgieva to be elected, keeping European control, just in case someone from China or Japan got the job. The IMF's executive board also looked into the allegation. In a statement, it says it's confident in Georgieva's leadership, adding the board trusts in the managing director's commitment to maintaining the highest standards of governance and integrity in the IMF. Juliet Song, NTD News.
The UK plans to back 3 European countries in order to challenge threats from China. On Monday, UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss met with foreign ministers from the 3 Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. They agreed to build a stronger partnership focused on economy, security, and technology. That's to counter what they called malign actors, including Beijing. The 3 Baltic countries are located on the eastern coast of the Baltic Sea. They share borders with Belarus, Poland, and Russia. Since 2019, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania all put China on their national security threat lists. Lithuania was first to make the designation. The country accused China of its espionage activities inside Lithuania. Officials there said Beijing had tried to influence public opinion and government decisions. Latvia came next, followed by Estonia. The country has long feared retaliation from China if it publicly disagrees with Beijing's political views, as a threat like that could endanger the country's sovereignty. Lithuania also backed out of China's so-called 17+1 group in June and urged other European Union countries to do the same. The organization is part of Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, a global infrastructure project often criticized for trying to expand China's communist influence and ideology. And this July, Lithuania welcomed a Taiwanese representative office into its capital. The move immediately agitated Beijing, which recalled its ambassador to Lithuania. Lithuania did the same soon after. The U.S. and India are coming a step closer in countering the threat from the Chinese Communist Party. Indian Naval Chief Admiral Karambar Singh held talks with his U.S. counterparts in New Delhi on Tuesday. Both countries seek to boost cooperation in the Indo-Pacific as Beijing grows its footprint in the region. After arriving in the Indian capital, U.S. Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Michael Gilday was greeted with a guard of honor. He said in a statement released last week, "Make no mistake, India is one of our closest strategic partners, and our relationship is a stronghold of a free and open Indo-Pacific." The U.S., India, Japan, and Australia are part of the Quad Regional Alliance, responding to China's growing economic and military strength. India is also in a continuing standoff with China over their disputed border in the Himalayan mountain area. U.S. officials met with the Taliban this weekend as the Chinese Communist Party looks to take advantage of U.S. troops' retreat from Afghanistan. Beijing hopes to implement its Belt and Road Initiative with Afghanistan support, despite the Taliban regime's known brutality. NTD correspondent David Vivez has the details.
U.S. officials met for the first time with the Taliban on Saturday and Sunday in Doha. The talks focused on containing extremist groups in Afghanistan and evacuating U.S. citizens. The U.S. insisted the meeting did not amount to recognition of the Taliban. While U.S. relations with the Taliban remain chilly, China is taking another step closer to the new regime in Kabul. The South China Morning Post, which typically reflects the perspective of the Chinese regime, wrote on Monday that the Taliban have matured a lot politically and that their governance is considered reasonable by the Afghan people. Emmanuel Dupuy is president of a security and military think tank in Paris. He says while the US was sending troops to Afghanistan, China has been trying to do business there for years.
2,500 American soldiers have died during 20 years of enduring freedom and the ISAF, International Stabilization Assistance Force in Afghanistan, while China was making business. Therefore, the dilemma is quite simple. China did not send troops in Afghanistan, but set its roots in Afghanistan.
He believes the Taliban's coming to power is a great opportunity for the Chinese regime as it will impact the entire East Asia region. And the retreat of US troops is an additional bonus for China.
Pakistan is now more focused on doing business and instead of doing war, instead of sustaining, training, mentoring the Taliban, which is exactly what China has always asked Pakistan to do.
The Belt and Road Initiative connecting China with Europe will benefit from China's business relationships with Afghanistan and Pakistan once it gets underway, he says.
Of course, this leads us back to the Belt and Road Initiative, where China was looking very actively to interconnect between its territory towards Turkey and of course towards Iran, and this is and will be achieved. Nevertheless, the rudeness or nevertheless the barbarity of who is in power in Kabul.
But the official recognition of the Taliban regime by Western countries, including the US, remains an important step for Afghanistan to be able to join groups like the UN or the China Cooperation Organization and be able to engage in long-term partnerships with its neighbors. David Vives, NTD News.
A U.S. Navy nuclear engineer and his wife have been charged with selling secret information about the Navy's submarine program. They were caught by an FBI sting operation.
Jonathan Toby is said to have passed a package of restricted data to an unidentified foreign country last year, according to the Justice Department. Later, he began selling information to an undercover FBI agent posing as a foreign operative for payments in cryptocurrency totaling $100,000. Court documents say that at one point he hid a digital memory card containing sensitive information on nuclear submarine reactors in half a peanut butter sandwich. The sandwich was left at a dead drop in West Virginia, while his wife, Diana, acted as a lookout. Another was hidden in a pack of chewing gum. Authorities say the couple are from Annapolis, Maryland, and were arrested during one of their drops in West Virginia. They're being charged with violating the Atomic Energy Act.
According to an Associated Press report, the country this U.S. Navy engineer tried to contact is not an English-speaking country because he had to translate the material into their language. And that's all for today's China in Focus. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.